I got it.
Hey, everybody, we're back. I feel like there should be like a kind of music because
I got it.
we have so much going on, so much breaking news in the digital space that we didn't want to wait a week.
No, but maybe I should have like some, I don't know, hip hop or something to like really get us excited, because going live twice in a day takes a lot of energy.
In case you're not familiar with who we are, I'm Lorraine Ball.
And I'm Jennifer Denny.
And this afternoon, we're going to talk about some of the things that are happening in the digital space that are news. Some of them are controversial. We're not going to take sides on the controversial issues.
Nope, that would not be a good idea for our brand.
But they are things that you should be aware of. And the first one is the Spotify boycott. If you're not familiar, one of Spotify's number one podcast is the Joe Rogan Show, which if you've had an opportunity to listen to it, he's got his opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And it started with a protest singer of my generation, Neil Young, was like, no, if you're going to have his content, you're not going to have mine. I don't want to be associated. And so Neil Young said he was going to take all his content off of Spotify.
Yeah, and you talked about this, pre-show, is that this is not really new. We've been doing it for a while with media companies. And so for me, it's about, what do you want to have your brand associated with? And today's consumers do expect, when, there's a controversial issue, that you're going to take a stand.
And that's really interesting, because when I started my business, I had rules. I did not talk about politics. I did not talk about religion. I just didn't. And over the years in my business, what I began to see was that my customers wanted me to have an opinion. There was
that was a bad idea.
And there were issues that there were places where I really felt like I needed to take a stand, that I needed to say this was right and this was wrong. And clearly that's where Neil Young was. And I think if it had been just one performer, this would be over. But yeah. I was just reading this morning again, I'm going to be, okay. It's all my old protest songs, but Joni Mitchell, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and one of the performers from the E Street Band have joined Neil Young saying, we don't want to play.
Yeah.
And now you have other performers who are getting on board, not because of one of Joe Rogan's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting involved because it's one of his other stands. So it's not a one issue. It's starting to grow. And now Spotify's in an interesting situation, because if they lose too many of these performers.
Yeah. Pandora, iHeartRadio is over licking their chops with this happening. And, we can even go back to 2020 in recent history here, where, there were things that were happening in the news, and you were expected. I didn't even coming back to the election before that, you were expected to take a stance. And I think you just have to, as these issues come out as a brand, you need to think about where you stand in case you get forced to make a stance, and what are you going to do? Where are you going to stand?
Absolutely. Because at some point you're starting to see some people who are unsubscribing from Spotify. They are canceling their accounts, and the numbers are not big yet. But as a business, Spotify has to be looking at, if this grows, what's our contingency plan? Do we dig our heels in? Do we say, okay, we're not going to and as a small business, if you're starting to advertise on some of these platforms, where do you want to be spending your money? And when you spend money, what is that saying about you and your politics?
And do you have a PR agency on speed dial? Because as much as you think that you're going to be able to answer this the way that you want to answer it, you're going to need that second opinion that's going to be like, did you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
And so that PR agency is going to help guide you in the messaging. I know what Spotify came out, I think it was yesterday, was you could have interpreted either way. So it was a nice ride the line. And that's what they might do.
And I think, with any, and I think from a PR standpoint, with any crisis, not overreacting. There's something to be said for just saying, okay, this is where we are right now. We don't have to dramatically shift one way or the other, but be prepared that may or may not be enough.
I don't want to put this term as, the current situation that it's bullies, but it is the bully stance that, when somebody is demanding that you do something, your best option sometimes is to do nothing, because that's exactly what they want you to do.
And, again, I think it's going to be an interesting story to watch. And just kind of see, how do people play out? But let's switch and let's talk about Meta. Okay. Is it bad that I'm like, because I'm not invested in Facebook. I mean, in terms of my retirement funds are not tied up with Meta, which is a good thing considering how much did they lose yesterday or this week?
Oh, a little bit of chunk of change, 200 billion in value. It was one of the largest plunges, and it came about because Facebook's ad revenue was way down. And, this was really, we've talked about it in a previous episode of, this is all because of Apple. And, the updates that they made. And it's not just Facebook, like a lot of, again, every app that is on a phone was affected by this. So Facebook just happens to be the punching bag that we all want to come after. And I'm really kind of tired of it, because they've all got what Facebook has, people. But a huge plunge.
Well, and, so what this speaks to is, I mean, there's a lot of places you can go with this, but one of the things that this speaks to is something that we've both said over and over again. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. 2 years ago, Facebook, or 4 years ago, Facebook looked bulletproof. And I think they've taken a lot of heat. They've done some really sketch things. So we're not even going to go there, but they've had a target on their back. And if you as a business owner have put 100% of your business into Facebook, if you are completely dependent on Facebook for all of your leads, all of your revenue, this needs to be a wake-up call for you.
Yes.
Because
you don't own that channel. They can do whatever they want.
and they can fail. I mean, this is,
Blockbuster. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever, it happens.
It happens. And, a lot of the economists that I'm reading are, saying, the tech sector is way overvalued. And just in terms of what their stock is selling for versus their revenues.
They're actually worth.
And so we can expect this kind of correction. And some of the companies that are smart and forward thinking are going to come out the other end, and some are going to have a bumpy ride. But there's some tech companies that maybe are having a little bit better.
So Google and Microsoft, their ad revenues are up 32%.
That's interesting that Google and Bing are both up.
It's not to me. It's not to me. I know why. it's actually a counteraction to what happened with Facebook. So Facebook, most of its traffic is coming on a mobile device, and so they were affected by Apple. Who wasn't? Google and Microsoft, because they can be on a desktop or you can access it through Safari. So they're over there like, yeah, we got this.
Well, and especially I would think that Bing definitely, because I don't think anybody uses Microsoft Edge or Bing on their phones. I actually have a Chrome browser that sometimes I use on my phone, but
yeah, let's not forget that Apple, one of the number one phones, has a deal with Google, and it comes out of the box. This should be some sort of antitrust somewhere, but it's not yet. That Google is the default.
Well, okay, so if you go back, that is a direct. Microsoft had a deal with all sorts of computers.
Oh yeah.
That I mean, that's how Office became the dominant office suite. Again, I'm going to date myself.
I'm not sure what happened to him after that. He just gave up. I don't know.
No, they did pay their fines. They got slapped. They kind of backed off a little bit, sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But I think that what this speaks to is two things. I think part of it is that one player in the space dramatically impacted the fortunes of other unrelated companies, which speaks to that power and interrelationship.
Yeah. The other thing I think about is if their ad revenues are up 32%, there's a lot more people getting into the game of digital marketing, especially in the Midwest. And so, number one, it's going to get more expensive. And number two, your competitors are out there too. So if you're not already, I feel like I have to say this every year, but you're behind.
Yeah. I mean, it is becoming more and more evident that if you want to have the impact on social media, that you have to be investing at least a little bit in ads. And at the same time, it's a little scary for a lot of small businesses that you can spend a lot of money really quickly and not get the results that you want. And so I think that's a place where you need to be playing with a professional. You need to be playing with somebody who actually understands this.
I was just going to say, I think the biggest breaking news is the internet is not going anywhere, people. It's going to be here.
Yes, it is, but it's also not going to be the same as what you thought it was a month or 2 months ago. And so you need to stay up, you need to stay current. And we can help you do that. Our regular Small Biz Chat is every Friday. It's available on a lot of platforms.
A lot of places, and there's the digitaltoolbox.club. There's more than a few words. Like, I think between Lorraine and I, we have a media company. We just don't know it.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you that when you're done listening and learning and you're ready to hire a professional, and particularly navigating the advertising space, elevatedmarketing.solutions.
All right, take care, guys.
Bye now.